It's 1997, and you're playing FF7 for the first time. You've just completed the Temple of the Ancients, and the plot is ramping up. Cloud is appalled at what he's done, and terrified he's capable of worse. Aerith has gone off on her own to stop Sephiroth from summoning a meteor. What's more, the party knows he's hot on her heels. Your mission is clear. Follow Aerith to the Forgotten Capital and save her from certain doom. However, something's bothering you. Something you can't let go of. A burning question you absolutely need to resolve before continuing with the story. What the hell is that cave? Seriously, look at it. It's right there, staring you in the face. There's even a conveniently placed vine dangling down from the entrance. But you can't climb it. Or maybe you can, if you can just get the positioning right. No, you definitely can't. Eventually, you give up. Maybe the game will have you climb down from it later. You proceed with the plot. Things happen, momentous things. Things that will define video game history forever. You get distracted. You get so distracted, you don't even realize, when the credits roll 30 or 50 or 100 hours later, that you never climbed down that vine. Years pass, or maybe just months. You play FF7 again. You find the Lunar Harp, make your way through the sleeping forest, and there it is again. The cave in Coral Valley. That stupid vine. It's laughing at you. It's mocking you. You need answers. You need closure. And today, you'll get them. But first, a tiny bit of technical jargon. This will only take a minute. FF7's maps share a basic naming scheme. For each thematically separate set of fields, you have an abbreviated name followed by a number indicating the map in that set. We're going to focus on 3 sets in this video. The first is Sango, which is Japanese for coral and indicates the Coral Valley field maps. This is famously mistranslated as either corral or corel, depending on the version you're playing. The second set is SLFRST, which is an abbreviation of Sleeping Forest. And the third is ANFRST, which is an abbreviation of Ancient Forest. Though it should be noted, the Japanese term for ancient used here is different from the one used to denote the ancient species, or cetra. Next, FF7 uses something called a plot progression value, or PPV, to keep track of the player's progress in the story. You'll sometimes hear people refer to this as the game moment. For instance, when the Sector 7 plate drops, the game sets your PPV to 236. Therefore, if you enter Evergreen Park in Sector 6 with a PPV lower than that, you'll see this map. If, however, your PPV is 236 or higher, you'll see this map. With all that in mind, let's return to the mysterious cave in Coral Valley. For a long time, modders speculated that when you first visited the Forgotten Capital, you would have to make your way through the Ancient Forest. If you don't remember, the Ancient Forest is an optional dungeon unlocked after defeating Ultima Weapon near Cosmo Canyon. A solid piece of evidence supported this theory. In the game's internal index, the ANFRST field maps come between the SLFRST and Sango field maps. FF7's maps are generally listed in plot order, so this would seem to indicate that the Sleeping Forest led directly into the Ancient Forest, which then spat players out of the cave in Coral Valley. Unfortunately, this logic has some holes. First, there's the matter of the lower entrance on Sango 1, which still needs to connect somewhere. Next, the ancient forest is home to many pieces of rare late-game equipment. It's conceivable that these were initially less powerful pickups, but unlikely, considering the hoops players are forced to jump through to obtain them. Finally, the battles for the ANFRST maps appear in the game's encounter tables between the offshore reactor and the sunken Relnica, well after the player visits the Forgotten Capital. And so, for many years, the mystery of the Coral Valley Cave remained only partially solved. There wasn't enough evidence to conclusively connect it to the exit of the ancient forest. However, new discoveries made this year have revealed a crucial missing piece of the puzzle. Like many locations in FF7, Bone Village features a healthy dose of unused text. Of particular note is a batch of lines introducing the fauna and flora of the ancient forest. Modders have known for a while that this text belongs to an NPC in Bone Village, but by looking closer at the dialogue speech patterns in Japanese, we can determine exactly which one it is. In this case, the lines belong to one of the map's 3 women archaeologist NPCs, specifically the one in the top right corner. You'll see she's conspicuously standing next to an opening in the nearby trees, scratching her head as if confused about something. In the final game, this NPC merely comments on the technology used by the dig crew to locate buried objects. At no point in the game does her dialogue ever change, regardless of your plot progression value. However, something else does change once your PPV reaches 1008, which happens during the Junon escape on Disc 2. This PPV is rather special. It's what the game checks for to see if Sephiroth's meteor has been summoned. Once the game moment reaches this value, NPCs around the planet are set to react accordingly when you talk to them. So what does this have to do with Bone Village? If you take a look at the scripting for this location's map, you'll come across something peculiar. In the DIR group, which determines the initial setup of the map, there's a check for a PPV of 1008. If your PPV is lower than that, the game will deactivate a certain triangle on the map's walk mesh, preventing the player from walking there. Where is this walk mesh triangle located? You guessed it, directly in front of our NPC. While this deactivated triangle serves no purpose in the retail version of the game, for us it's the last bit of evidence we need to settle one of FF7's longest standing mysteries. Rather than being forced to traverse the ancient forest directly after the sleeping forest, players would have been able to enter it by returning to Bone Village after obtaining the Highwind. Upon doing so, this right-hand opening in the trees would be unblocked. And instead of describing the dig site's tech, our archaeologist NPC would have filled us in on the dangers of the ancient forest. Players then would have had to complete the dungeon as usual, negotiating its various traps and tricks. Finally, you'd find yourself in the conspicuous cave at the end of the ancient forest, but instead of returning you to the world map, at long last, the Promised Land. Well, in a manner of speaking. It's possible the infamous vine, which is always lowered in the final game, would have needed to be unfurled from the top. This would have prevented players thinking they could climb up on their first visit. Now we can see that the ancient forest was originally an alternate path that met up with the sleeping forest's exit on the first map of Coral Valley. Though we don't, and likely never will, have hard confirmation in the way of developer commentary, we feel enough evidence has now been gathered to declare this 28-year-long side quest completed.